Hello, Vilonia United Methodist Church. I'm Pastor Lauren, and I'm here with Clint Johnson to offer you another midweek devotional as we think about the ways our life has been reimagined during COVID-19. We've been having conversations or hearing from people who are sharing about the ways that their faith has been challenged and strengthened during this time. And so we're going to hear from Clint today, and as he tells us a little bit about the ways his faith has changed. But first, I just want you to introduce yourself, Clint. Share a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you.
Yeah, so Clint Johnson, just probably see my two boys, Mitchell and Cash, running around the church, and my wife Megan, as well as my parents and Megan's parents both attend church. So glad to have the whole family here with their faith family. Been coming for, I guess, 12 years now. Didn't seem like it's been that long. I guess it has.
Yeah, that's awesome. And even though I'm new to the church, I've known Clint since I was on college staff. Right after I had graduated from college, I served at Ozark Mission Project, and he was a driver. And so we've known each other since then just a little bit, and so it's good to get to know you a little bit better through this conversation.
Yeah.
So first, I just want to ask if there's a particular passage in Scripture that has really resonated with you during the COVID time.
Yeah, there is. So any hard time in my life, I think back to Peter and Peter getting out of the boat. And there's three times when Peter got out of the boat for Jesus. One was more figuratively when Jesus asked the disciples to drop their nets and follow him. The second, you preached on this the other day, of Peter getting out of the boat in the storm. The disciples are in the boat. They're in a storm. They're all worried, and they see Jesus walking out there. And a lot of people get that story confused with the time that Jesus quieted the storm, which he didn't quiet this one. Peter stepped out in the middle of the storm, being a fisherman, knew there's no way he could make it to shore alive, and asked Jesus to command him to do something that he couldn't do on his own. So I think about that a lot. And then the third time after the resurrection, disciples went back to the only life they knew of fishing, and saw Jesus on the shore. And that time, Peter didn't hesitate. He didn't think about it. He jumped into the water, didn't step, jumped, and swam right to Jesus. So thinking about Peter's growth in his life of faith, of going from being hesitant and I'm sure terrified, stepping away from his livelihood to follow Jesus, to doing something he was afraid to do but knew he must do, and then not hesitating and jumping out of the boat.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And to think about, so often we're reading stories about Jesus and thinking about what Jesus would do in a situation, but when we see someone like Peter, who's just trying to figure life out and makes mistakes a lot, and just oftentimes Jesus will teach him something and he can't comprehend it at that moment, but like you said, we see the way his faith changes and he grows and he becomes sure in some ways, and then is asked to carry on the church. And so I think Peter is comforting, especially during challenging times, and he helps us to know it's okay to be afraid or to make mistakes, but that I think this idea that you posed of him sort of always running towards Jesus, or the first time, when he, or the second time when this storm is happening, he tentatively gets out of the boat.
Very unsure.
He's still going towards Jesus, right? And then that last time, I think that's a beautiful picture that he's running towards Jesus. And when we're afraid, that is probably the best thing we can do.
Definitely. I identify with Peter mostly because I'm hard-headed like he is.
Got it, yeah. Takes a little bit. Yeah, that's great. So then, of course, your faith has been challenged or strengthened during this time. We look to biblical characters to help us, but I wonder also, what are some of the things you've realized about your faith being challenged during this time?
So the people that know me will know, I'm not good at talking on the phone with people. I'll call somebody to set something up that we're going to do together. If there's a specific reason, I will call you. I'm not good at maintaining a relationship over the phone.
Got it.
So for me, I go to see God at worship or doing mission work like Ozark Mission Project, and all those things have been on hold. So for me, it's like I'm having to maintain a relationship with God without going to see God. And prayer for me is like talking on the phone. And sometimes I don't know, I don't call old friends from high school because I don't know what to say,
Right.
because I haven't seen them. And it's been the same without having worship experience and these other things, the way I go to see God. So prayer has been a hard thing for me in COVID.
I've heard that a lot from people, that it's just a way that we're unsure of how to connect right now. And I think it's helpful maybe to hear that a lot, to think about a way we as a faith community could grow or be challenged in this time, but also in that, like, you're not alone.
Right.
Like, that is just something that we struggle with because we just aren't always taught about the depth of prayer, or the ways that there are so many different ways. Like when you're fishing, you could be praying, or just noticing the creation around you is a way to communicate with God or to give thanks to God. That, prayer isn't just about having to be alone, like kneeling next to your bedside.
Right.
Like we can do that in so many ways. And so I think that's a helpful thing to be thinking about, is how might we discover God in some different places or different ways than we're used to? Because I think that's a good point. When we've worked our whole faith lives to come up with ways that we know connect us with God, that are foolproof.
Right.
And then when all of those have been taken away from us during COVID, we're sort of left like Peter, in the water, sort of flailing around trying to figure out how we can trust God in new ways. So I think
you mentioned enjoying creation. So one thing I've actually loved about COVID, I feel really guilty about this, but like most people know, my job is like working outside with getting fish. And the only impact that I've had at work was they told us not to go to the office. Okay,
right.
No problem. And I was fortunate enough to have a really flexible work schedule. And then with Megan being a teacher and the boys being home, we bought some kayaks and went. If it was sunny, we were floating. Didn't even know what day it was. We went whenever we wanted to. So that was actually a blessing. I guess that became church for me.
Right.
Of getting out and spending time with my family and in creation, and have some quiet time sitting in a boat, thinking about jumping out, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, and COVID is an unfortunate situation for so many reasons, but as we discover that we have time to pause and to think about some of the things we really value, like being outdoors and family, it helps to I found it helps to clarify some things about what's important in our lives, and what are we taking seriously, and are some of the other noise just noise, and do we need to let it go? And so I think that is a helpful thing in being forced to pause, is to then be able to turn and see what God has in store for us in this time of pause. So,
and I've heard that from a lot of people, of all the kids' activities being canceled.
Right.
Of can't go to ballet and soccer, do all these things, and kind of happier now. Maybe we didn't need some of those things in our lives, cluttering it up.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
And do you have anything else you want to close with?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you so much, Clint, for sharing. And friends, I hope you'll look forward to more conversations like this, where congregants share devotionals or share conversations with me as we continue to wrestle with scriptures that are meaningful to us in this time, and challenges we've had in our faith lives. It's great to share those things with one another so that we know that we are not alone in this time. If you want to share a devotional, if there's something you have on your heart that God has placed on your heart to share with our congregation, I'd love for you to contact me so we can share that with others. Thanks.